Hey guys, it's Rich with your Monday Spot in Pagan Perspective. This week we're talking about spirit keeping. This one comes from Piping Druid. It was left on Carr's personal channel, and I really enjoy this topic. It's one that I haven't seen before, but I'm going to go ahead and read this and move on into the topic. So they write, I was wondering if you have come across what is called spirit keeping, as in the binding of a spirit with its consent to a vessel, not the spirit itself per se, but a link to the vessel as to make it easier to converse with. A place that goes into great detail on this subject is creepyhollows.com, and the link will be below. I was just wondering what your thoughts on this were. I have not seen this subject broached by the pagan community. Now, first off, I want to say the terminology for spirit keeping in terms of binding and spirits and what all that entails is not necessarily the same that I would use in my practice. The term binding to me is very constricting. It's definitely encapsulating either a person's energy within themselves or binding two people together, or binding an essence within something so it cannot escape. That is what I think of whenever I think of binding. That is not the same as spirit keeping binding. So once I got past that terminology, then I went on to the spirit aspect. Whenever they're talking about spirits, I immediately thought, oh, you're taking earthbound spirits, you're encapsulating them into this item and they cannot escape or they cannot move on or something like that, and that is not the case either. So I had to get that out of my mind. So what spirit keeping actually is whenever the essence or the energy of, whether it be an angel, a jinn, fairy, dragon, or a person who has passed away, is contained within an item. That does not mean that the spirit or the essence cannot go away and then come back. The best way that I can describe to think of it is as like an altar or a mind focus. And that's the only way that I can probably explain it, that it is a way of connecting to them by holding it, having that muscle memory type of focus to where once you hold it, you are immediately there conversing with that type of energy, whether it be a spirit or what have you. So that is the kind of terminology that I would give to it, is creating that item as a focal point or as an altar space, a place to go whenever you want to meet with the spirit one-on-one. And this practice isn't exactly something new. I think I've kind of already done a small version of it, and the Catholic Church has actually been doing this for about 2 millennia, or however long the Catholic Church has been around. You see this with saint relics. I have on my Book of Shadows the relic of Saint Anthony of Padua. It's a third-class relic. This saint relic I actually have on my Book of Shadows because of the story of Saint Anthony losing his book of, I believe it was Psalms, if I'm remembering correctly off the top of my head. So it's kind of the same as that. Whenever you're holding the relic or whenever you're connecting with the relic in some way, that it actually puts you in communication or kind of sets Saint Anthony in this aspect to do a job or help you out with something, to kind of do a working for you or with you. So for me, that's kind of what the essence of spirit keeping is. Now, there are some responsibility issues that come along with this, such as keeping it well maintained or having proper upkeep of it, keeping it in an honored way. You see this more with jewelry, that if you have a piece of jewelry that has a spirit bound to it, and like I said, I use that term loosely as bound, but if you have a spirit that is bound to a piece of jewelry, you want to keep it maintained, you want to treat it with respect. And I think I actually kind of already did this without realizing it, and I gotta take a moment, that I did this without realizing it because whenever I did the funeral for a friend of mine, I was wearing a rosary, and it has on it a little half of a heart, and the other half of the heart was buried with my friend. And every time I pick this up, I feel her energy within this rosary, or attached more particularly to that half of a heart. And yeah, so it's kind of something that you can, I guess, do without realizing that you're doing it. And now that I realize that I did that, what I want to do is actually put some protection on it, make sure that it's not defiled, defaced, destroyed in any sort of way, that it's honored and has that continuing connection with me and my friend, and that I honor that connection. This doesn't mean that the spirit cannot pass on or hasn't passed on. My friend has certainly passed on beyond the veil. That does not mean that I cannot still connect or commune with her. If you guys are mediums or psychics, you know this. You can still connect with somebody who has passed on to the other side. So that is very much the case with my friend and I, more particularly whenever I am holding that rosary in my hand, I feel a huge connection to her. But I also feel her around me anytime I think of her, probably because I'm more in tune with her energy and all that I don't necessarily need that rosary. But it is definitely a focal point that if I ever needed it, I could grab it and I'd have that instantaneous connection. Like I said, you can have different spirits of different entities, whether it be the Fae, dragons, jinn, what have you, contained in any number of items. These can be items found in an antique store, they can be found in jewelry or be used with jewelry, and anything like that. And one thing that came to mind as I was coming home today was Chip, my crystal ball. And while I don't really think Chip necessarily had a past life or is a bound spirit of sorts, I definitely think of Chip as a working partner, as the spirit keeping would entail. Of course, I'm going to make sure that Chip is respected, he is not defiled, defaced, deformed, that he's not going to fall and crack or anything like that. I'm going to make sure that he's well taken care of because I take responsibility for him. And he knows that I will try my best within my power to make sure that nothing bad happens to him ever. So that is kind of, in my mind, again, some spirit keeping. So there are many layers to this, and it's not something that I really thought of before. If you asked me at the beginning, whenever I started thinking about doing this video, I would have probably gone to the Lesser Key of Solomon and said, look, you have demons and you're encapsulating them in a vessel and using them to bend to your will and this and that. And that has a completely different meaning to me than what spirit keeping has now that I've researched it further. Certainly there are some more dark aspects, more negative aspects that can come with spirit keeping. I really would not want to do that. In the essence of anything dark like that or negative type of energies, which I am of the belief that there are demons of sorts or evil entities that want to do us harm. That is part of my cosmology. Judge as you will. And come to your own conclusions, of course. But that is something that is part of my cosmology, is that there is something out there that is not necessarily nice to everybody. So for me, I would want to actually bind, in my sense, these entities to a vessel of sorts and then protect them from harming any human beings. That would be something that I would do that is not the same as spirit keeping. In this aspect, what I'm talking about with demons is I would encapsulate them, and yes, I would be spirit keeping, but I would not be working with them. I would set them aside and make sure that nobody got to work with them, that they were not able to harm somebody else. And that is something that I would do and would have to pretty much have to take on a case-to-case basis. It's not something that I would do lightly or frivolously. It's something that would take a lot of meditation, a lot of soul searching to make sure that I'm ready for something like that, if that is in fact something that I had to do. So that's what I thought of whenever I first thought of spirit keeping, and that is not what spirit keeping is. Spirit keeping is actually really intriguing me right now. I want to do way more research on this, and I might actually do a follow-up video on my personal channel. So I think that's all that I have for this week. This is the last time you will be seeing me on this channel this year. I will be back to see you guys in January, and next week is Subs Week, and then we are taking our annual 2 weeks off in order to kind of relax and enjoy the holiday season. Of course, if you are celebrating Yule, Happy Yule. If you're celebrating Christmas, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. And if you're celebrating any other holiday out there, happy, merry, insert positive energy right here. So, whatever holiday you're celebrating this time of the year, I hope you have a happy and a merry one. Until January, may you have love, hugs, and ladybugs. Bye-bye.